I never wanted to be a corporate lawyer. That might sound ungrateful considering the six-figure salary, corner office, and partner track position at one of Boston's most prestigious firms. But for me, Blackwell and Pierce was a gilded prison. Each meticulously drafted contract another bar in the cage that kept me from my true calling. My name is Marcus Chen, and for the past 8 years, I've been living a double life. To my family, I'm the dutiful son who followed my father's footsteps into corporate law. To the technology world, I'm Phoenix, creator of Harmony, the artificial intelligence music composition software revolutionizing the entertainment industry and valued at $1.2 billion. Neither world knows about the other. The irony of my situation struck me hardest this morning as I stood in the gleaming lobby of Blackwell and Pierce, watching the installation of a new sound system. The firm was hosting a charity gala that evening, and the keynote speaker was none other than Eliza Winters, CEO of Melodic Ventures, the company that had just acquired Harmony for $600 million. Incredible what these tech companies are willing to pay for algorithms these days, remarked senior partner Richard Blackwell, stopping beside me. This Phoenix character must be laughing all the way to the bank. Probably some college dropout who got lucky. I maintained my carefully neutral expression while my stomach tightened. The technology is quite revolutionary from what I understand. It's changing how film scores and video game soundtracks are composed. Richard scoffed. Well, it certainly made Winters rich, and tonight, hopefully generous. He slapped my shoulder. The Wilson merger documents need final review by 4. Don't disappoint me. As he walked away, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Eliza. A text message flashed across the screen. Asterisk need to discuss announcement tonight. Investors pushing for Phoenix to make an appearance asterisk. I ducked into an empty conference room, my heart pounding. In 8 years, I had never appeared publicly as Phoenix. The acquisition agreement specifically accommodated my anonymity. Eliza was one of only 3 people who knew my identity. This wasn't part of our deal, I said when she answered my call. Circumstances change, she replied, her voice tense. The board is concerned about future innovations. They want assurance that the creative genius behind Harmony isn't just taking the money and disappearing. They're threatening to hold back the final payment unless Phoenix makes a public commitment to continued development. That's $200 million, I said quietly. Yes, it is. And before you remind me of our contract, their lawyers have identified a potential loophole. We can fight it, but it would be cleaner if you just made an appearance. At tonight's gala, it would be perfect timing. All the major tech media will be there covering the acquisition announcement. Phoenix makes a surprise appearance, shares a vision for the future, everyone wins. Everyone except me, I muttered, looking through the glass walls at my colleagues hurrying through their 60-hour work weeks. I can't just suddenly reveal I've been living a double life. My firm, my family. Your choice, Marcus, Eliza said. But the final transfer happens tomorrow, and the board meets in 3 hours. I need your decision. After she hung up, I sat in a silent conference room, feeling the walls of my carefully constructed worlds beginning to crumble. My story really begins 12 years ago, when I was a promising computer science major at MIT with a minor in music composition. I had developed an algorithm that could analyze thousands of musical scores and then generate original compositions in any style. Classical, jazz, hip-hop, film scores. The program didn't just mimic, it created with an emotional intelligence that stunned my professors. This could revolutionize entertainment, Marcus, my advisor had said. You could build something extraordinary. The same week I received acquisition offers from 3 major tech companies, my father had a heart attack. As I sat beside his hospital bed, the machines tracking his heartbeat with steady beeps, he gripped my hand. I've worked my whole life to give you opportunities, he said, his voice weak. The Blackwell position is everything we've worked for. Promise me you won't throw it away on these computer games. My father had immigrated to America with nothing, worked himself through law school at night, and sacrificed everything to give me the opportunities he never had. How could I tell him that the computer games could make me a millionaire many times over? How could I disappoint the man who had just nearly died, whose only dream was to see his son follow in his footsteps? I promised. The next week, I turned down the tech offers and accepted a position at my father's firm. But I couldn't abandon my creation entirely. Late at night, in a small apartment I rented under an assumed name, I continued developing my algorithm. I created the Phoenix identity, secured patents through anonymous holdings, and connected with Eliza Winters, a rising venture capitalist who understood both the technology and my need for secrecy. "You can have both worlds," she promised. "We'll build this together, and no one ever needs to know who Phoenix really is." For 8 years, the arrangement worked. I drafted contracts by day and coded by night, catching sleep in 3-hour increments and fueling myself with espresso and determination. Harmony grew from a promising prototype to an industry-changing platform. Major film studios used it to compose background scores. Video game companies licensed it to create dynamic soundtracks that adapted to players' actions. Streaming services utilized it to generate personalized playlists. And all the while, I maintained my trajectory at Blackwell and Pierce, making junior partner at 32, earning my father's pride and locking myself further into a life I had never wanted. The acquisition offer from Melodic Ventures had seemed like the perfect exit strategy. The money would allow me to eventually leave law without raising suspicions. I could simply announce a career change, perhaps even join Melodic as a legal consultant while actually working on Harmony's next iteration. But now, Eliza's demand threatened everything. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Asterisk, looking forward to seeing you at the gala tonight. Proud of you, sent asterisk. I closed my eyes, the familiar weight of expectations pressing down on me. Then I made a decision and called Eliza back. "I'll do it," I said, "but on my terms." The Blackwell and Pierce Charity Gala transformed the firm's normally austere lobby into an elegant reception hall. String lights draped from the vaulted ceiling, a jazz quartet played softly in the corner, and Boston's elite circulated with champagne flutes in hand, checkbooks at the ready. My father found me as I entered, resplendent in his tuxedo, his silver hair perfectly groomed. At 65, he still commanded attention in any room. "Marcus," he beamed, embracing me. "Richard tells me you finished the Wilson merger documentation single-handedly. Impressive work." "Thanks, Dad," I said, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server. "Looks like a good turnout for the Children's Hospital." "Indeed, and your Ms. Winters is quite the draw. Everyone wants a piece of the tech boom these days." He gestured toward Eliza, who was holding court near the stage, elegant in a midnight blue gown. She caught my eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. My heart rate accelerated. "The program begins in 20 minutes, my father continued. "I've saved seats in the front row." "Actually, Dad, I need to handle something for Richard first. I'll join you shortly." I slipped away before he could ask questions, making my way to the small preparation room behind the stage where Eliza waited. "Are you ready?" she asked, studying my face. "No," I admitted, "but I don't see another option." She handed me a small flash drive. "Your presentation is loaded. The announcement of the acquisition comes first. Then I'll introduce the mysterious Phoenix and you'll take it from there." She squeezed my arm. "For what it's worth, I think this is the right move. You can't live a divided life forever, Marcus." At precisely 8 o'clock, Richard Blackwell welcomed the guests and introduced Eliza. I stood in the shadows of the stage, my pulse pounding in my ears as she announced Melodic Ventures' acquisition of Harmony. "This technology is revolutionary," she told the crowd. "It doesn't replace human creativity, it enhances it, democratizes it, and opens new possibilities for artistic expression." The audience applauded politely, most of them more interested in their nonprofit tax deductions than music software innovation. My father sat in the front row, his expression one of polite interest. "And now," Eliza continued, "I have a special surprise. For the first time ever, the creator of Harmony has agreed to make a public appearance. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce you to Phoenix." The room buzzed with excitement as I stepped onto the stage. I saw confusion ripple through the crowd as they recognized me, just Marcus Chen, corporate lawyer, not some mysterious tech genius. "Good evening," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "My name is Marcus Chen. Some of you know me as an attorney at Blackwell and Pierce, but for the past 8 years, I've also been Phoenix, the creator of Harmony." Gasps and murmurs swept through the room. I didn't dare look at my father. I developed the first version of Harmony as a student at MIT, combining my computer science knowledge with my passion for music composition. While I pursued a legal career to fulfill family expectations, I never abandoned my true calling. I clicked through to the demonstration portion of my presentation, and the room filled with the sweeping orchestral music generated by my algorithm. The score I had created specifically for this moment. It built from a simple piano melody to a full symphonic arrangement, telling through music the story I was struggling to tell with words. Harmony isn't just software, I continued as the music played. It's the realization that technology and art aren't separate worlds. They can enhance each other, elevate each other, much like our logical and creative selves don't need to be in conflict. As the music reached its crescendo, I finally found the courage to look at my father. His expression was unreadable, his posture rigid. Beside him, Richard Blackwell looked thunderstruck. With Melodic Ventures resources, we'll expand Harmony's capabilities, making sophisticated music composition accessible to filmmakers, game developers, and artists who lack formal musical training. We'll establish educational initiatives to bring music technology to underserved schools. And we'll continue pushing the boundaries of what AI and human creativity can accomplish together. I concluded my presentation to stunned silence, followed by an eruption of applause. Journalists rushed forward with questions. Tech investors who had ignored the boring charity event suddenly crowded the stage. Through it all, I watched my father slowly stand and walk toward the exit. Eliza appeared at my side, beaming. "They love you. The board is ecstatic. The final payment is secure." But I hardly heard her. "Excuse me," I said, slipping from the stage and following my father's path. I found him in the partners' lounge, standing by the window that overlooked the Boston skyline. He didn't turn when I entered. "Dad," I began, my voice catching. "I can explain." 8 years, he said quietly. 8 years of deception. "I didn't want to disappoint you," I said, moving to stand beside him. "After your heart attack, when you talked about how important it was that I join the firm." "So you lived a lie?" He turned to face me, and I was surprised to see not just anger in his eyes, but hurt. "You thought that's what I wanted, isn't it? You always said being a lawyer was the pinnacle of success. You worked your entire life so I could have this opportunity." He shook his head slowly. "I worked my entire life so you could have choices, Marcus. Choices I never had." He gestured toward the door, where we could still hear the excited buzz from the lobby. "This creation of yours. This is extraordinary. Why would you ever think I wouldn't be proud of that?" "Because it wasn't law," I said simply. "It wasn't following in your footsteps." My father sighed heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 65 years. "When your mother and I came to this country, we had nothing. I became a lawyer because it was stable, respected. It provided for our family." He placed his hands on my shoulders. "But I wanted you to pursue excellence, Marcus, not necessarily in law, just in whatever path you chose." "I didn't choose," I admitted. "I tried to do both." "At what cost? When was the last time you slept more than 4 hours? When did you last take a vacation, see friends, have a life outside work?" I had no answer. The exhaustion of 8 years of double lives suddenly seemed to catch up with me all at once. "That music," my father continued, "the piece you played tonight, it was beautiful. Was that really created by your algorithm?" "With my guidance," I said. "I designed it to express what words couldn't." He nodded thoughtfully. "It succeeded. I heard pride in that music, determination, but also longing." He squeezed my shoulder. "I never meant to be the reason for that longing, son." Before I could respond, the door opened, and Richard Blackwell entered, his face flushed with what could have been either anger or excitement. "Marcus," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "there are about 20 technology journalists in our lobby demanding interviews with the lawyer-turned-tech billionaire. Care to explain what's happening to my charity gala?" My father straightened, his protective instincts visibly kicking in. "Richard." "It's okay, Dad," I interrupted gently. Then to Richard, "I apologize for the disruption. The timing wasn't my choice, but the revelation was inevitable." "Revelation," Richard repeated. "That while collecting a salary from this firm, you've been operating what exactly?" "A software company." "I've never neglected my responsibilities here," I said. "My billable hours are among the highest in the firm." "The Wilson merger is irrelevant," Richard cut in. "This is about loyalty, Marcus, about transparency. The firm has invested considerably in your development, and all the while, you've been pursuing other interests. Interests that have apparently resulted in a technology valued at over $1 billion. My father interjected, surprising me with his defensive tone. Interests that demonstrate extraordinary talent and vision. Richard's expression shifted as the financial implications seemed to register. Well, yes, the achievement is certainly impressive. Perhaps we should discuss how this might benefit the firm. Our technology practice called. No, I said, the word emerging more forcefully than I'd intended. I'm sorry, Richard, but I've made my decision. Effective immediately, I'm resigning from Blackwell and Pierce. The weight that had pressed on me for 8 years seemed to lift with those words. Richard stared at me in disbelief. This is rash, Marcus. Let's discuss this tomorrow. When? It's not rash, I countered. It's 8 years overdue. I turned to my father, expecting disappointment, but found him watching me with something that looked surprisingly like pride. I need to get back to the event, I said. Eliza will be wondering where I am. I extended my hand to Richard. Thank you for the opportunities you've provided. I'll ensure a smooth transition for my clients. Stunned, he shook my hand automatically. As I turned to leave, my father fell into step beside me. You don't have to leave with me, Dad, I said quietly. These are your colleagues, your friends. He smiled, the same smile I remembered from my childhood when I'd mastered a difficult piano piece or solved a complex math problem. I'm exactly where I should be, son, beside you. The aftermath was both simpler and more complicated than I had anticipated. The tech media exploded with the story of the secret billionaire lawyer, turning me into an overnight sensation. Melodic Ventures stock rose 15% following the revelation, and the final acquisition payment processed without issue. My departure from Blackwell and Pierce was accelerated by mutual agreement. Richard, ever the pragmatist, pivoted quickly to leveraging his connection to the Phoenix phenomenon for client development. Some of my colleagues were resentful, others fascinated, but none were truly surprised. The exhaustion I'd been carrying had been visible to anyone paying attention. 1 month after the gala, I stood in the newly renovated offices of the Phoenix Foundation, an organization I'd established to bring music technology education to underserved communities. The space hummed with activity as programmers, musicians, and educators collaborated on curriculum development. The Boston Symphony Orchestra accepted our proposal, announced Claire, my program director. They'll partner with us for the summer youth program. And MIT wants to establish a joint research initiative, added David, my technical lead. They're offering dedicated lab space and graduate student support. I smiled, watching them return to their work with enthusiasm. For the first time in years, I felt fully present, fully engaged in a single purpose rather than stretched between worlds. My father visited that afternoon, touring the foundation with genuine interest, asking questions about the technology and the educational philosophy. At 65, he had finally reduced his own work hours and was exploring long-abandoned hobbies. I've been thinking about what you said, he told me as we stood by the window overlooking the Charles River. About choices and expectations. Dad, you don't need to. He held up a hand. Let me finish. Your mother's father was a concert pianist in Shanghai before the Cultural Revolution. Did you know that? I shook my head, surprised. He was forced to abandon music to work in factories. Your mother grew up without music in her home because it wasn't practical, wasn't safe. He turned to face me fully. When we came to America, we wanted security for you above all else. Perhaps in pursuing that security, we ignored the creative legacy that was also your birthright. Through the glass wall of my office, we could see a group of high school students arriving for a workshop, their faces bright with excitement as they were introduced to harmony. You found a way to honor both, my father said, watching them. The practical drive that built this business and the creative spirit that inspired it. He laid a hand on my shoulder. I spent years thinking I knew what success looked like for you. I was wrong. That evening, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my office with a prototype of Harmony's next iteration. I loaded a piece of music my algorithm had created that morning, a complex, layered composition that intertwined traditional Chinese melodies with contemporary orchestration. As the music filled the room, I thought about the paths not taken, the years spent divided, and the unexpected journey that had brought me here. I had spent so long trying to live 2 separate lives, never realizing that my greatest work would come from finally bringing them together. My phone buzzed with a text from Eliza. * board meeting tomorrow at 10. Bringing that venture capital group interested in educational applications. Wear something impressive *. I smiled and texted back, asterisk, how about just something authentic, asterisk. Then I turned back to my computer, added a new layer to the composition, and for the first time in years, signed the digital file with my real name. Not Phoenix, not Marcus Chen, attorney at law, just Marcus, creating exactly what I was meant to create, exactly as I was meant to create it. In the soft glow of my office, with Boston's lights twinkling beyond the windows and music, my music, flowing around me, I finally understood sometimes the most complex harmonies emerge not when we separate our different selves, but when we allow them to play together.